Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm here with Caleb. Today we're going to talk about the FieldCraft knife created by Tops Knives and designed by the brothers of Bushcraft. Caleb, how are you doing today?
Not too bad at all.
Good. Can you tell us about the FieldCraft and how it was designed and how it came into being?
Not a problem. Anybody that knows me knows that I've dealt with a lot of knives in my lifetime. There's big old army-style survival knives, the custom knives, the little pocket knives, and even, in some occasions, the big choppers. So I've got a lot of experience working with knives, and it was people like myself who had a lot of that experience that came to be, and they joined together and grew into a group that was called the Brothers of Bushcraft. And what the Brothers of Bushcraft is a coalition of guys from all over the United States and myself up here in Canada who teach wilderness skills through video, through articles, and elsewhere. And we work together. A lot of us know each other for quite a while, and we started talking for a long time about what our ideal knife would be. And after about a year of thinking and playing around with different designs, this is what we came up with, and it's called the FieldCraft Knife. We went to a good friend of ours, Mike Fuller from Tops Knives, who was more than happy to design it for us and put it together. And the knife has a lot of different features from different guys, and anybody that knows any of us, like Joe Flowers, would know about the Shango notch. Anybody that knows John Campbell would know about the bow drill divot. Anybody that knows me knows that I like a nice comfortable handle on my knife, and so we put that on there. Mikhail from Utah, a great designer, put together a beautiful and very effective geometry for an edge and a very stable blade. So that's the history of the knife, and it's been used for quite a while. I've been handling the prototype. This is actually a brand new one that you brought to us to play around with today. My prototype one was actually one that was designed before we got Joe's input in and John's. This is a much older one, as you can tell. Not the Shango notch, no bow drill divot. Exact same blade though. And this thing, you and I put through the ringer about a year ago. This thing is a tough blade. It's just as tough as that big army style knife, but it's just as delicate and detail work as the smaller, custom-made, bushcraft-oriented knives. It's a very effective blade in that style, and we're here today to talk about, well, everything about it.
So let's start with the blade. What can you tell me about the blade?
Oh, there's a lot of great features about it. First off, it's just near perfect for bushcraft work and fieldcraft work. And fieldcraft is a military term for working in the field, dealing with stalking, dealing with camouflage and everything else. So if you're in a escape and evasion style living, a knife of this size is just near perfect. It's small enough to keep with you at all times, and at the same time it's able to do a lot of the lion's share of the work. The blade, it's called a modified Scandinavian grind, and the reason it's modified is most Scandinavian grinds people know of are just flat bevels, kind of like a chisel. Whereas this has a slight convexing to it, and that is really the trick to this blade's design. That makes it really tough for a very sharp blade. Convexes are just a brilliant design to a knife. Second part about the feature of the blade is the width. The width of the blade allows you to have a lot of surface area when you're carving, as well as batoning and beating this knife up. When you start to bend and pry on the knife, all this surface area is going to help give it a lot of strength. If you had a little, say, something the size of a screwdriver, like an awl, you try to pry on it, it would just bend like a nail. And that's exactly the problem. It doesn't have enough lateral strength. Those two things combined, the wide blade, the modified Scandinavian grind, and the thick edge, which is approximately, I want to say 1/8. I'm sure it's probably not that. I think it's 3/16. That thickness of a blade makes it real tough. We can actually stand on this knife if it's driven into a log, and it's not going to bend. Now, I'm a big guy. I'm about 250, 260. Standing on this knife and it's not going to bend or break, that's impressive. That means you can use this in an emergency to drive into a piece of ice if you fall through the lake up in the winter Canadian wilderness. That is really a good thing to know about. But a lot of people worry when they get a thick blade, it's not going to do a lot of good carving work. Well, we're here today to prove that it can.
Now, tell us a little bit about the micarta handle.
Ah, yes, the micarta handle. That was really my input on the knife. My concept was I like a knife that's extremely comfortable to hold. If you don't want to hold it all day, you're not going to use it all day. And out in the field, you need to be able to do that. So the handle has a very ergonomic design. It's got a curvature that goes perfectly with the hand. As well, the palm swell fits just perfectly in the fingers. And a really cool feature that we didn't realize would happen until later was that this little not thumb scalp, sorry about that, the bow drill divot fits perfectly with the pinky finger for some people, and for some people it's the ring finger. It actually kind of locks the knife into place. The real part that I put in was the thumb scallops, which are these grooves right here and right here on the handle. Those allow a lot of detail and a lot of control of the blade when doing certain carving techniques. One of those carving techniques is called the chest lever grip, or the side grip, as some people say. And your thumb just simply lays in there, and it lets you carve a lot better. If this was, say, not grooved, your thumb would actually stick way out here, and you wouldn't have as much control. You'd actually have to bring your hand up closer and put your thumb way out there to carve. It's not very comfortable. Whereas this way, you just simply lay your thumb down, lays right down on the blade, and you just carve away. Much more comfortable, much more ergonomic, and much more efficient of energy. That's really the most of it. The other part is we used hex screws here and here, and a brass liner tube. The reason for this is so you can actually take this off if need be and fix your blade. If you break a handle, which is very rare to happen with micarta, that's why people love it, is you want that toughness. But if it somehow does break, which on very rare occasions it will, you can unscrew this, put on new handle scales out in the field, maybe a piece of wood, maybe a piece of antler. You can even wrap it with cord if need be. The tube actually allows for two features. One feature is with that bow drill divot. If you place this in its sheath, just make sure the blade's not exposed, you can actually press down on top and use the bow drill divot. If that's not working too well for you, or you have too small of a bow drill spindle, some people like to use real thin spindles, you can actually place it inside the brass liner tube and push down on it as well. So it's a really good feature. Another thing is it's really wide. We didn't want this to be a little dinky little tube that you see on a lot of knives. It's just, it doesn't work. If you have parachute cord, if you have thick rope you want to put through there, it just doesn't do the job. So we put a little wider of a brass liner tube in there, and this makes the lanyard hole a lot more efficient.
Right. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me about the Shango notch. Can you tell me about that?
Not a problem. The Shango notch was actually Joe Flower's brainchild. He's really innovative in the field. The idea behind it is, excuse me here, a lot of people like to use a ferro rod out in the field. And a lot of people actually, if they don't know what they're doing, use their edge of their knife. Not good for the edge, not good for the ferro rod, not good for you.
Right.
The other technique that most people actually stand by is the using of the spine of the knife. And that does work quite well. But what we've noticed with a lot of our students up here in Canada, and a lot of people have noticed elsewhere, is if the knife is wet, if your hands are wet, if your hands are cold, and that's really where it comes into. If your hands are cold or wet, you get a big bad slip on that and you can cut yourself real bad on that edge. Right. This thing is like a scalpel.
It is, it's razor sharp.
This thing shaves real well. We may even show that sometime in the video. But using that technique, there is a chance of danger. There's not a big chance, but there is one, and that is slipping. When you put it in its sheath and use the Shango notch as a chisel, you actually get rid of all that danger. The blade's not exposed. You got a solid grip on the knife. I'm going to put that whistle back. You can actually hold on to the sheath if your hands are real numb. That's easier to hold on to than something that small. Hold there and push down as hard as you want and get a lot of sparks. So that's the whole concept. And the beautiful thing about putting it on this knife is it actually extends the pommel a bit. If you can tell, the tank sticks out by, I'd say about a quarter inch there. That quarter inch actually allows you to beat on the steel rather than on the handle, and that actually makes your handle last a lot longer. If I take, say, this big old log here and just start pounding down on my knife like I did here, that might not do a big bad damage, but if you start doing that again and again and again, it can start to wear down. If it's not going to break your handle, it might start to weaken your tube, it might start to weaken your rivets, it might start to weaken other parts of the blade. So if you extend the tang out a little bit further, make that extended tang there, it's real tough. Makes it like a crowbar almost. The great thing I like most about the sheath is a lot of people don't like their sheath riding that high, so it's kind of cutting into their ribs. What I like about these that Tops makes, a lot of people don't like certain spring steel clips. I love them. I love them because you can alter the shape of your knife on your belt. I like to wear mine scout style, which is where it rides along horizontal on my belt, parallel with it. Other people like to have it on an angle, other people like to have it on a different angle. With this, you have those options. So it's a great option on a knife blade, on a sheath, of course. And of course, it's MOLLE compatible. You can hook it onto a backpack, you can hook it onto a web belt, you can hook it onto a MOLLE vest. It's a great option. Of course, with Tops knives comes their infamous Tops whistle, which is a 3-tone whistle blast, one of my favorites they have out on the market. I love these things. You mind if I give it a blast?
Absolutely.
You cannot confuse that with a bird or a car horn.
No.
And 3, 2, smile. You can go now.